the bombardier with us that he had chickened out. He refused to fly. And that was it. Nobody asked why or what, and we never found out what happened to him, if he was court-martialed or what they did to him. So his name was Kelly, and he was from Boston, supposed to have been a pretty society family. When we got ready to go overseas, there weren't any airplanes ready for us, so we had to go to through towns up in Kansas, and then join and other guys and take a train to go to Boston to go get onto a convoy, and we ended up on a ship. At the time, it looked pretty big, but it was really a small ship compared to other ones that were going. And because we were flying personnel, we ended up on the B deck, which was pretty damn good. The officers had the good staterooms, and we had on the B. And then the other guys were down C, D, E, F, G, and way down the artillery infantry guys. And we had two bunks like we did on a regular camp. These guys were down there 6 deep, and they were just absolutely sick because they weren't used to it. And they had been throwing up in the shower, which is a big room, maybe 20 feet by 20, and they were all throwing up in there. It must have been like 2 or 3 inches, unfortunately, of vomit. And it was just going like this. Those poor guys never went to go eat because they would just get so sick. So we would go up, no problem, eat, go up on the deck and everything. So we had a very, very good trip. When we woke up the first day out on the convoy, we go up the top, and it's a convoy. It looks like about 50 ships all over. The planes are flying over, big aircraft carriers, and we're right at the front, a small little ship compared to some of the other ones. And we were heading to Europe somewhere. We didn't know where we were going to go. It could have been Italy or anywhere. Very fortunately, we were very lucky. We ended up in England, which was absolutely the best place we could have gone. I mean, civilization was there, right? It was very interesting there. And we got there at the end of May of '44. And when we got to a base where they're training us to see what base we might be going to fly out of, we were at the Wash, which is up in the northern eastern coast of England, and it was the day, and they say the invasion started, and we could see all the planes going over, and that was on June 6th. And I often had thought about that my mother, you're not supposed to tell where you were or whatever. And she knew that we had gone overseas when I left the United States. So she didn't know if I was in the invasion or what. And unfortunately, I didn't make that, And so we didn't get into that end of it. We ended up going to our base that was assigned to us to go to replacement crew, and there were nice winding roads, beautiful green. All of England was like that, just gorgeous. And as we're approaching our base, we hear all these ambulances just rushing all over the place, and all of us say, "Oh, that must have been a terrible mission. All these guys coming back wounded." What had happened was, on that day that we landed there at the base, the guys were unloading anti-personnel bombs from the flight that they didn't drop the bombs, and they were clusters of bombs. They're anti-personnel. There's like 3 attached with the band, and guys were already unloaded their plane, and they were around the bottom in there. What had happened, the band broke and the bomb fell and exploded, injured a lot of guys and killed 6 of them. And so we arrived at the base. They had asked for if we could donate blood, and I said, yeah, I have some. They said, are you flying personnel? Yeah. I said, we can't take your blood. Really, they could have taken it. We didn't fly for about a week and a half after that, so. But that was just a terrible beginning and introduction to combat. We ended up, fortunately, in the barracks that was right across from the main headquarters of our barracks, where the major in charge of our squadron was there. And so it was very interesting. In the morning, we could hear him walking to come into the barracks and call the crews off. What happened on June 21st, the sergeant came into the room and he said, Octavio Huerta? Yes. I said, you're flying today. Okay. And I was the only guy from our crew that flew that day. They needed a waist gunner on another plane, so I flew. I never did get the name of the pilot that flew our plane, and our co-pilot also flew as a co-pilot on another plane. And I always thought that was wrong, because they should have had I think that our pilot our pilot of our plane should have gone and flown as a co-pilot, so he could see what happens or how it is and so forth, instead of the co-pilot. Well, anyway, so I came back and they ask you all kind of questions. Everybody wants to find out how this was. And I said, well, it was interesting. I flew as a waist gunner, and we went to Berlin. And when we went to the briefing, when they raised up the curtain to show where it's going, everybody goes, "Oh, guys, a big red spot shows where we're going," and everybody's going, "Oh, Christ!" I mean, that's the big heaviest flak area. So what happened? Fortunately, we were very lucky. We didn't get hit that much by flak. No fighters hit us. And when we were flying, the waist gunner told me, open that little door down there by your feet, by the ball turret. It's a little trap door about this big, and he says, throw all that stuff down. It was icicle, they call it. It's shaft, and you keep throwing it down, so it interfere with where altitude you're at. So they knew where altitude we're at. We're at 20 or 21,000. They were shooting it up in. But I'm looking down this little window, and I'm looking down onto land down there and over Berlin, and I see this boom, boom, the flak is bursting. I look, I say, shit, I'm just throwing that thing. It's too late. I mean, it didn't matter, you know. But I came back, everybody wanted to find out how did it go and everything. I said, oh, just fine, you know. So. But we never did get credit on our records as far as saying that I flew before the rest of the guys. They were all followed up anyway. And the co-pilot, I always thought that he should have gone, the pilot should have gone as a co-pilot on the plane to see what the pilot is doing. He'd be in the co-pilot seat. And so then we flew quite a few days. We flew like 4 or 5 days in a row. I mean, and then we were off 2 or 3 days, and then we'd fly 3 more days. And within about 2.5 months, I did 27 missions, I believe it was. And then they asked us, since we were the senior crew that was flying, if we wanted to volunteer to fly an airborne plane with 3 operators in there in the Bombay as a airborne radio station for the P-51 guys, pilots, and to be communicating with them. And so our pilot said, we can do that, or we have to finish flying 35 missions. Well, we had 31, and my co-pilot and I had 32 missions. And so well, we said, yeah, we'll take it. We could get shot down on the very last mission. So we took it. And so that was very fortunate.
How many missions did you fly
Uh,
total,
I-
including that?
Altogether, I flew 32, and my co-pilot flew. And the rest of the crew flew 31. And I remember that almost one of our very last missions before we volunteered to go, the plane next to us in the formation, our squadron for some reason they furnish. A squadron is 12 airplanes, so that's 3, 3, 3, and 3. And then there's another squadron that goes 3, 3, 3, and 3, and then another squadron 3, 3, 3, and one squadron is down. They don't have to fly. Well, on this one mission that we flew to Munich, and everything looked pretty good. We come off the run, and some flak. They shot some flak up and hit our number 4 engine, which is the right engine in the front, and of course in the front. I hit the right engine, and it hit the other plane on the left engine, and so the pilot right away feathered the engine. He puts things like this, the props, and so that it doesn't spin around because the engine was knocked off. And I'm looking at the other gunner over there. I'm kneeling like this. I can see the other tail gunner over there, and all of a sudden they pull out of formation a little bit, and it looked like smoke that was coming out under their wing. Unfortunately, it wasn't smoke, it was gasoline, and it ignited, and just a big thing of the whole wing was on fire going up against the tail, and 3 guys got out of it.